Evening, everybody who are attending. This With the advent of ultrasound and especially good quality ultrasound scan, gallbladder polyps has become a problem that we are all facing in an increasing way, and there are a lot of questions. What are gallbladder polyps? Is the incidence of gallbladder polyps increasing, or are we picking it up because we are scanning a lot of people? What are the adverse effects of gallbladder polyp? What are the causative factors and the etiologic factors for gallbladder polyps? Which polyps are we need to be afraid of or concerned about? And what is the surgical strategy for gallbladder polyps? What is the follow up and strategy also? So I think there are a lot of questions which we need to answer, and it's a very interesting topic. So I think Dr. Shivram has probably got answers to all of these questions. And without much ado, I will hand over to Dr. Shivram. Kindly put your questions in the chat box, or we will stop in between and we'll take your questions also. Thank you, Shivram.
Thank you, Dr. Ravi Shankar. I think you rightly have raised a lot of questions. I think we should try to find out all these things. So why I chose this topic was because gallbladder polyps are not talked much in the textbooks, nor during our practice also. But when we see there are a lot of referrals for gallbladder polyps and also patients who come with the ultrasound report of gallbladder polyps. So many people get stuck what to do and what not to do. So that's why I thought we will discuss about this openly and try to find out some of the answers. Right. Let me take this case scenario. 50-year-old male patient. He is an executive. He undergoes master health checkup. There are no comorbidities. Ultrasound abdomen shows 9 millimeter gallbladder polyp in the body of the gallbladder. And rightfully, the physician sent him for an opinion from the surgeon. So what will you do in this case? He has come for the surgical opinion. You are the surgeon on the spot. So any postgraduates want to take up this first? Anybody know?
Sir, Ajit here, sir.
Yes, Ajit.
Hello, sir.
Yes, Ajit.
Hello, sir.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Yeah, we
Sir,
can hear you.
we'll observe him because he does not have any comorbidities. We'll get a repeat scan after 6 months, sir. We'll monitor.
Okay.
If any sudden growth is there, the increase in size is there, then we'll go for lap cholecystectomy, sir.
Okay, good answer. So let us take it from there that you want to, why do you want to observe, why don't want to do lap chole in this patient?
Sir, it can be benign also, and if it is not growing, means it will be mostly benign, sir. So no need to subject the patient for surgery.
All right. That's okay. So when you have gallbladder polyps in front of you, the ultrasound report, you have several options. No action at all, just say, reassure him and send him nothing to worry. It's got gallbladder polyp. And then you have the option of follow-up, as you said, that is periodically follow-up. And then patient may ask, will they disappear, these gallbladder polyps, or it will be there with me for lifelong? Then you will have a fear in his mind. Or will they become cancerous? Will they become malignant? Or when we should do laparoscopic cholecystectomy to remove the polyp. You cannot just remove the polyp, and you may not have medication to do that also. So if at all something has to be done, it has to be done laparoscopic cholecystectomy. So from here we'll go further. So Dr. Rajan, who has written a very nice book, Fact and Fun in Surgery, and many of us are reading it, and many of you might have got it. He has written in one of his chapters to mnemonics for malignancy potential in gallbladder polyps. So 6 S's, easy to remember: sessile, single polyp, 6th decade onwards, size more than 1 centimeter, size changing rapidly, and stones associated. So remind you, it's not just about the polyp. This is about the polyp. You have found it, whether it can go for malignancy or not. That's the malignancy potential. So 6 S's. Let us see anything more we can add into this. So when such patients come, we try to answer whether it is neoplastic or non-neoplastic. That's the first thing we have to think about it. So how to do that, we'll see later. Whether it is symptomatic or asymptomatic. Symptomatic, when we say whether the polyps is associated with any biliary colic or pain, typically of the gallbladder pain, or whether it is going to turn malignant, that is malignant potential, as I said in the previous slide. And then what's the size of the polyp? So in the polyp, the size becomes very important, and age and fitness of the patient. So all these things we have to look at it when you have a polyp patient with a gallbladder polyp. So you have to try and analyze what all the possible problems and what we have to do in these things. Incidence and etiology: polypoid lesions of the gallbladder. I'm telling polypoid lesion, not just polyp. Is about 5% of the adult population may have some sort of polypoid lesions. So when you do a routine ultrasonogram, about 1.5 to 4.5% of people may pick up gallbladder polyps. So this is why you see, as more and more ultrasound is being done, health checkup is being done, you will be going to see more and more gallbladder polyps. Definite correlation with increasing age and the presence of gallstones. Can you please mute? Somebody is talking. Please mute. So there is a definite correlation with increasing age as the age advances, and also the presence of gallstones. So it is more common in men than in women. So also the Chinese people have more prevalence. So that is about double of the rest of the world. It's about 9.5%. So this is what we have to understand. Then we have to classify the polyps, whatever you see or whatever they are there. That is whether it is non-neoplastic or neoplastic polyps. The non-neoplastic is 95%. So most of the time you need not worry. Most of them are non-neoplastic. In that, cholesterol polyps are about 60%. Adenomatous polyps is the next big group, which is about 25%. So we are talking about non-neoplastic and neoplastic. Non-neoplastic is 95%, and most of them are cholesterol polyps. Next big group is 25%, that is adenomatous polyps. Inflammatory polyps is about 10%. If you come to the neoplastic percent, there are only about 5% of them. So they can be true adenomas, which is again about 4%, and the miscellaneous neoplastic polyps about 1%. So this can be various things which sometimes we may not think of them in the gallbladder also, like neurofibromas, carcinoids, leiomyomas, fibromas, and the heterotropic gastric glands, all these things. So this is again important to think about the classification, and most of these things will be confirmed when we send the, if we remove the polyp and send it for histopathology. Pathological classification, again, you see there is a very broad, big classification, and we just think about polyp only. But if you see the osteopathologists, they can have variety of things, and very we are fortunate that many of things are not seen, but some of them can be come as a surprise at some time when we send for histopathology and get the diagnosis. So any questions at this stage? Anything in the chat box, Ravi? Nothing.
Unmute Ravi, please. Yeah.
Naz has asked for a question that she wants to know whether high resolution ultrasound and CT is needed to determine the vascularity and confirm whether this is a neoplastic polyp. And second question is because she thinks it's 9 millimeter polyp that we should probably operate on that.
Right. All right. Both I will come back to you, Dr. Nas, about the evaluation and also about the ultrasound, also about the characteristics. Dr.
Hanumantaya, you have a question?
Dr. Shivram, is there any, incidence regarding incidence of an Indian population about the polyps?
Right. Okay.
Because you said more in case of a Chinese population.
Chinese. Yeah.
Yeah. Any papers would...
No, Indian population, the gallbladder polyps are not so common, but the malignancy is much more common. If you see the cancer gallbladder, about 10% of the gallbladder is contributed by India, especially the northern and eastern belt.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you see the polyps, it is more common in the Chinese origin people all over the world.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Kindly unmute and speak up, please. Okay, I think there was 1 or 2 studies, Shivram, I saw where they showed the incidence of polyps, true polyps, to be around 10 to 15%. So one study showed 10 and another, but that was about 150 and 300 patients. But I think I agree with you. If you look at the general population, the incidence what you quoted is probably right. But there are sporadic instances where there can be higher indication of the true polyps, higher incidence of true polyps.
Possible, yeah. Right. So let us move on to cholesterol polyps, which is the most common. I said it's about 60% of cases. This is what we see. They are the finger-like projections of the mucosal lining of the gallbladder. So they project into the lumen of the gallbladder. So these are the accumulation of cholesterol and triglycerides within the macrophages in the epithelial lining of the gallbladder. So usually they are multiple and also pedunculated. Size can vary from 2 to 10 millimeter. Usually they are not big size, more than 10 millimeter or anything. One of the problems with cholesterol polyps is that they can sometimes slough off and can go and block the cystic duct or the bile duct and can cause cystic duct obstruction, or when they are passing through the bile duct, they can initiate acute pancreatitis when they block the bile ducts, these things. So this is one thing which we have to keep it in mind, because cholesterol polyps, even though they are small in size, if they are multiple, if you are leaving it as it is, we have to be sure that they are asymptomatic. So if they are symptomatic, then they can become problematic. So this was one such case where we removed patient had multiple episodes of pain abdomen when we removed the gallbladder. This is also, there are projections like that.
Classical strawberry gallbladder.
Correct.
Yeah.
Next, another big group is the adenomyomas or adenomyomatosis, they are called as. these are not actually polyps, but they are grouped under the polypoid lesions of the gallbladder. And many of the ultrasound reports, we see that adenomyomas, the adenomyomatosis of the gallbladder reported. So here, most important differentiation is the gallbladder wall is excessively thick, and there are deep folds into the muscularis propria. So they are not projecting into the lumen, but they are projecting into the muscularis propria. So this can be localized, or it can sometimes involve the entire gallbladder. Ultrasonograph, if it is done properly, is very diagnostic. There will be thickening, dilated and branching these sinuses, which appear as intramural defects. The Rokitansky-Aschoff sinuses, or the epithelial lining of the gallbladder, which was projected inside the muscularis propria. So it is gone into the muscular layer. So they are not, rather than polyps, they are not projecting into the lumen. They are usually solitary and can range in size from 10 to 20 millimeter. Most common area to be found is in the fundus. So another significance of this is sometimes there will be chances of gallbladder cancer, especially the concentric narrowing or constriction of the gallbladder. That type of thing it may be associated with the gallbladder cancer. Also, if it is very much thickened, differentiation has to be made from the gallbladder cancer. So more than the cancer, more chances of cholecystolithiasis and the cholecystitis. So that's why it's important to understand that there is more incidence of the gallbladder inflammation and stone formation. So these are the different types of adenomyomatosis. This is the localized variety where you see in the fundus. Then this is the annular variety of the more chances of malignancy in this. The segmental variety, one area, segment of the gallbladder involved, and this is the diffuse variety. So adenomyomatosis, so we can say there are 4 types, and chances of malignancy is higher with the annular form of it. So this is one such gallbladder. There were stones also, and the cross section showing the typical projections into the gallbladder wall. And you see the thickness of the gallbladder is very thick, but this is not malignant. And the lumen is, because of that, the lumen is become very small. Coming to the inflammatory polyps, this is only about 10% of them, and this is the third most common type. So this is because of the granulation tissue and fibrous tissue which are present in the lumen of the gallbladder and adherent to the gallbladder wall. Many times if it may look like a pseudo polyp also, and they are generally solitary and usually do not go more than 10 millimeter in size. Next comes the true adenomas. This is about 4% of all the polypoid lesions what we see. This is where the size can be bigger, more than 10 millimeters, so 5 to 20 millimeter, and they are usually pedunculated. Potentially pre-malignant. This is earlier it was thought it was very going to become malignant, but nowadays the adenoma carcinoma sequence is not very well established like what we see in colorectal cancer. So even though there are true adenomas, now there are reports that most of the gallbladder carcinomas do not arise from these adenomas, and carcinomas can be de novo itself. So almost all adenomas which are found to be cancerous, they are more than 12 millimeter in size. So this is where the size becomes very important. So adenomas, if they are bigger than 18 millimeter in size, definitely they will be malignant. So another interesting thing is gallbladder adenomas are less common than gallbladder cancer. So adenomas you may see in one patient, gallbladder cancer you may see in 4 patients. So 1:4 ratio. So whenever you suspect adenomas, we have to know that carcinomas are more common than the adenomas. So we have to be more cautious and take more precautions and find out what is the exact what's happening in that adenoma if the size is bigger than 10 millimeter. So this is one such adenoma I can see here. It's a pedunculated. Size is big, but this was not malignant. So this was a adenomatous pedunculated polyp, and histopathology did not show any malignant. Probably if it was sessile and the gallbladder wall was thickened, and definitely then we would have suspected carcinoma. Then the miscellaneous neoplasm. This is only about 1% rare things what we discussed of the different lesions like lipomas, leiomyomas, neurofibromas, all these things. These are usually solitary, benign, and size can be a little bigger also in this, about 5 to 20 millimeter in size. So these are the different types of polypoid lesions in the gallbladder, which we have to consider when we see a polyp in the gallbladder. So any questions in the box?
There are no questions in the box.
Okay.
It's a very good disposition of the pathology of the polyps and the various characteristics of them. Anybody has any comment or questions till now?
Hello, this is Dr. Ramakrishna.
Yes, sir.
Sir, you explained so many varieties now. Are they only histological diagnosis, or can they be diagnosed on scanning or other imaging, and that imaging is reliable
Yes,
to
sir.
make a firm diagnosis?
He will come to that, sir. There is
Correct.
now good body of evidence emerging with the ultrasound scan and other investigations which can, of course, pathology is the final court of justice, but you can get good indications and good confirmations with the ultrasound and other investigations. Shivaram will come to that next, I think.
Yeah, the rare diagnosis you will get only through the histopathology. Some of the things you may be able to find out with the evaluation. Yeah.
Dr. Lakshman, sir, any questions so far?
No, nothing at all. It's going well. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yes,
now we'll
Shall I?
come to, yes, please.
Yes, Kalaivani. Yes, good evening.
So good evening, Dr. Ravi. My question is, how correct is the ultrasound size for the real size? Because the treatment is dependent on the size of the polyp. So, and we are dependent on the ultrasound findings. So what next?
Yeah, he will come to the ultrasound. I
Yeah.
think there
Okay,
is a lot of questions, lot of possibilities.
Correct.
Once we have gone through that, we can discuss those things. Yes, Dr. Shivaram.
Yeah, yeah. So let us come to, somebody else has any question?
Sir, is there any relationship between the gallbladder polyps and uterine fibroids?
I
No,
didn't
sir.
read any, nowhere found anything.
No, there were few papers also on that, sir. That's why I asked. They studied the incidence of polyps with stones with fibroid uterus in females, sir.
Right. See, polypoid lesions of the intestine, those things can be associated with the uterine polyps also. I think gallbladder polyps, I don't know.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Because
Sir,
here the
Dr.
pathology is different.
Dr. Arvind, good evening, sir. I think
Good evening.
we will come to the indications of surgery
Okay,
with the
okay,
size.
okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Thank you.
Sir,
Right.
Ajit here, sir.
Yes, Ajit.
Sir, in FAP, that familial adenomatous polyposis, that will have no, sir, relation?
No. FAP does not have any relation to gallbladder polyps.
Gallbladder.
You can get duodenal, gastroduodenal adenomatous polyps and periampullary carcinoma, but not gallbladder polyps.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Right. So most common thing which is done is the ultrasound abdomen. That is, that's the crux of the issue what Dr. Kalevani also raised, because ultrasound has a lot of fallibility. And if there is doubt, then probably we have to go to CECT and MRI, MRCP will see that. And also the role of endosono. And definitely if they are symptomatic, we have to do the liver function test. And also if you are going for surgery, that has to be done. Coming to the ultrasound. So in the ultrasound, you will see this as an elevation of the gallbladder wall, which protrudes into the lumen. So that is understandable. Most important, ultrasoundologist has to see that it is immobile. There may be some of the sludge or some adherent small stone that can be seen as a polyp if it is solitary or something, but they no posterior acoustic shadowing in case of the gallbladder polyp, but stones it will be there. No reverberation or comate tail artifacts, which suggests that that is for the adenomyomatosis or cholesterol polyp also. Whether it is sessile or pedunculated, that has to be seen, which has potential for any neoplasm if it is sessile. And whether it is infiltrating or into the gallbladder wall and there is any cancerous cancerous area in that by thickening, wall thickening, all these things has to be assessed. Most important is the ultrasound is operator dependent. So you have to be knowing that there is a good ultrasound machine, which is high resolution ultrasound, and also the sonologist is good. Otherwise, this abdominal ultrasound may not be giving much of information. So that's why it's operator dependent, and it can be used as a screening tool and to know whether gallbladder polyp is there, what is the size of it. And if you are following up the patient, it is better to do with the same ultrasonologist to follow up what size he has measured and also keeping the previous report, imaging report. Okay, then ultrasound problem is that definitely agree that operator dependent and the size may vary from one person to another person. Here you can see that this initially looked like a polyp, but when the sonologist moved him to the lateral position and also tapped, it moved, and probably it was some sort of a sludge. So if there is a doubt and if the size is more than 1 centimeter, it's always better to do a contrast enhanced CT scan. You can see here there is about more than 2 centimeter size polyp lesion. And what when we operated, this was in 2003. This is what we saw, what I showed in the previous one. So where we had done the CT scan also, there was a strong, because of the size, suspicion of the malignancy, but it was benign. So CECT is done selectively when you are going to, there is suspicion, doubt, or the size is bigger, malignancy is suspected, all these things. Next is endosono, which is there now almost many places. This is superior to conventional ultrasound for imaging gallbladder lesions, but this is not a must. It can assess the number of polyps, polyp shape, all these things. But most of the good ultrasound and sonologists will be able to tell almost all the information what endosono can give. Where endosono makes a difference is if the patient has a symptom, that is biliary symptom, and you suspect there is some altered LFT is there, and probably something polyp which has detached, got stuck in the CBD or something, then this is useful information to see, and afterwards, so if necessary, the ERCP and clearing of that. So US alone as a standalone investigation may not be very useful. Again, here is, this is again operator dependent, and we have to to understand the interpretation, whatever they give, and we have to dependent on the endoscopist who does the endosono for these patients. Okay, Kalaiwani, have I answered your question or?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hmm.
Sure.
Yeah, I
Yes,
think
I
if you
got
are
it, sir.
following
Thank you
up,
so
better
much.
to go through the same ultrasonologist. And
Yes.
recently we have very good ultrasound machines, and also it should be able to find out the size, pick up the characteristics, all these things.
Sir,
Yes, yes, sir. And yeah, go ahead.
there are specialized ultrasound scans, what is called as 3D ultrasound, high frequency ultrasound, and the transabdominal or abdominal ultrasound scan has a sensitivity and specificity between 65 and 85% at the most. And if you are in doubt, and because you can't operate on these people just based on this, then as Dr. Shivaram said, endosono will come into play. And if that is performed well, you can increase the sensitivity and specificity to up to 90% if you go with the endosono ultrasound, that is endosono. There is also something called harmonic ultrasound scan. I think whether that is a function of it, because I have not seen it, but harmonic ultrasound scan is supposedly better because it concentrates on the wall characteristics, and it can talk about whether there is wall thickening and and all these things, and so maybe irregularity in the wall and also the vascularity in the wall. So these things are better characterized by harmonic ultrasound. So probably that is a good addition if we have that. And and then as Dr. Shivaram said, CECT, in where there is suspicion about whether this polyp is turning malignant and things like that. Dr. Lakshman sir, anything to add?
No, not at all. I think you've covered most of it. The only point is that ultrasound is observer dependent, and so you need to rely on that. Before you rely, rather, you should know who your ultrasonologist is. And the point is very well made that the same person must keep following it up. And I have no experience of the newer modalities that you mentioned.
Yeah.
I think as Dr. Shivaram has said very clearly, if there are multiple polyps, then they are likely to be benign. If there is a single polyp, then you have to concentrate whether it is benign or malignant. And then again, if they are pedunculated, then unlikely to be malignant. But if they are sessile, you have to be worried. So these are the general kind of guidelines to go with as far as polyps are concerned. Okay, Dr. Shivaram, anybody else? Any other questions?
Or comments?
Comments?
Sir, what are the indication for endoscopic ultrasound in gallbladder disease?
The indication for gallbladder disease or polyps?
Polyps or stones?
Okay. Endosono, is it?
Yeah.
Endosono is more specific for the assessment of the CBD or periampullary lesion area. So you have an altered LFT and or a borderline altered LFT, and you are not sure whether there is stone in the CBD or not. Endosono, if the operator is good, is much superior than the MRCP. So that way, and also when they do an endosono, at the same time, if there are stones, they can remove the ERCP and do the clearance of the CBD also. So that way it's much more useful. The indication is altered LFT, suspicion of CBD, stone, and you have to go for the lab chole. Before that, you have to be sure that CBD is clear. This is the mode of investigation. Earlier, we used to do MRCP and then do ERCP and all. If the facility is available, this is better.
Yeah. But unlike all other possible malignant lesions, in this, there is no, as of now, there is no evidence that you can either aspirate the gallbladder or take breast cytology to prove the malignancy. I think that is still evasive. I don't think any cytologic proof is available as of now.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So next, you have seen the gallbladder polyps. So we initially said, no, we can follow up. So what happens to gallbladder polyps in the long term? So there are a lot of articles on this also. This is a follow-up study after 11 years in the BMC gastroenterology. 413 subject patients were followed up for 11 years. 2002, they did ultrasound, followed up, and again at 2013, they were interviewed, all the things. In the long-term follow-up, the prevalence of gallbladder polyps increased. So over the years, the number of the patients or the gallbladder polyps increased, with new lesions developing in 8.7% of the population. Polyps persisted in 51, about 50%, in another about 50%, they disappeared. So this is what you have to understand. So many of the gallbladder polyps, what we see over the years, they may disappear also, especially the cholesterol polyps, inflammatory polyps, non-specific small polyps, all these things. So this is one study which tells us in the long run what happens to the gallbladder polyps. So presence of gallstones when there are no symptoms, whether to remove the gallbladder or not. So there are gallbladder polyps associated with gallbladder stones. So this is that regular teaching is gallbladder polyps associated with gallstones. If they are asymptomatic also, we should do a laparoscopic cholecystectomy because they may become malignant. So there is a little bit of controversy in this. There are some studies which say that yes, independent risk factor for the malignancy and significance is borderline, and there are many other articles also associated with the cancer. But recently, they say insufficient evidence to recommend cholecystectomy in these asymptomatic patients. So this is the European guidelines which is saying, but this we have to take it with a pinch of salt because in Indian population, gallbladder cancer is higher, and we have to look at characteristics, and one of the important factor with India is the gallbladder stones, which is associated with the gallbladder cancer. So when we see the gallbladder stones along with gallbladder polyps in our country, I think we have to look at it much more carefully than the European people what they do. So risk factor for malignancy, we have to consider the polyp characteristics and also the patient characteristics. If you see the polyp characteristics, most important is size. If it is more than 10 millimeter and over the years it is increasing in size, we have to consider risk for malignancy. And the morphology, as Ravi also said, sessile polyp, there is focal gallbladder wall thickening more than 4 millimeter, not generalized wall thickening, it's the focal gallbladder wall thickening. Then the presence of symptoms or gallstones, that is relationship with malignancy, not very well established, but in our country, I think we have to take it that way, that it is malignancy chances are higher. Then coming to the patient characteristics, the patient is more than 50 years and he has a polyp which is more than 10 millimeter, malignancy chances are higher, potential is higher. History of primary sclerosing cholangitis. So there also risk of malignancy is there, and I said Indian ethnicity. So if you have to consider all these 6 characters of the polyp characters and also patient characters, then you have to decide whether there is risk potential for the malignancy or not.
Shivram, can I come in?
Yeah.
They've also showed, whether I don't know whether there is univariate or multivariate analysis to prove this, but patients who are diabetic, patients who have hypertension, and patients who have hepatitis C, in addition to the patient characteristics we have listed out, they are also supposed to have higher incidence of polyps turning to malignancy. Again, not proven because the number of polyps who are malignant itself is so low that I think it requires huge numbers to really prove it.
Yeah, I don't think it is supported by literature, Ravi.
Yeah.
Whatever I searched. These are the things which are definitely mentioned. Then again, this is European guidelines after a lot of discussion between the associations, everything. So they have come up with this algorithm. It takes, you have to consider it very carefully, that gallbladder polyps demonstrated on ultrasound, and anyway, the pseudo polyp, no? Less than, so size becomes very important, less than 10 millimeter or more than 10 millimeter. So that is the first thing we have to consider. If you say 10 millimeter, less than 10 millimeter, whether the patient has symptoms that are attributable to the gallbladder, what we discussed. If they are there, then go for laparoscopic cholecystectomy. Symptoms are there or the more than 10 millimeter. Then if there are no symptoms and less than 10 millimeter size, does the patient have risk factors for gallbladder malignancy? What all we discussed, all these: age, sessile, Indian ethnicity, primary sclerosing cholangitis. So if the size is less than 10 millimeters, we are going to follow up them for some time, because polyp less than 6 millimeter, we have to follow up with ultrasound with the same person 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. More than 6 to 9 millimeter, follow-up is little more rigorous. That is 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. After 5 years, chances of their becoming malignancy is very, very less, and you can stop following them. And here again, if these high risk for bad factors are there, again, you have to polyp less than 6 millimeter, follow-up, polyp 6 to 9 millimeter, same thing. If during the follow-up there is increase by 2 millimeters or more, cholecystectomy has to be done. And if it reaches 10 millimeter, again you have to do. If it disappears, nothing to be done. There is no more further follow-up is required. So what we have to remember is, one is 10 millimeter size, another is 6 millimeter size, where follow-up is required 6 to 9 millimeter. Anyway, I'll share this presentation. This is quite interesting, but how much is practicable, difficult to say. This is again another article where outcomes of gallbladder polyps and their association with gallbladder cancer in a 20-year study. Please remember, this is not from Indian study, but they say if there is chances of malignancy is higher in the first year, after that, even if you follow up, most of them did not turn into malignancy. So the periodic ultrasonograph for 5 years is questioned in this paper. Again, how much is relevance to our population, we have to see. This is another population where it is Indian ethnic background is included, the UK study. They studied 71,431 reports are included in this. See, gallbladder polyps detected in 3.3%. Larger than 10 millimeter was in 0.1% of the cases. So again, they said age above 60 years, not 50 years, Indian ethnic background, single gallbladder polyp larger than 10 millimeter, presence of gallstones, severe gallbladder wall thickening, irregular thickening are all independently associated with a higher odds of developing gallbladder carcinoma. So the presence of these things definitely, especially in Indian ethnic population, requires laparoscopic cholecystectomy. So to come to the summary of the management, after all this thing, easy to make it easy. If the patient has high risk factors for gallbladder malignancy, what all we discussed, then and a polyp of 6 to 9 millimeter, cholecystectomy is recommended. So high risk factors, size 6 to 9 millimeter, go for laparoscopic cholecystectomy. no risk factors for gallbladder malignancy and polyp if 6 to 9 millimeter. Follow-up is the one which is required. 6 months, 1 year, and then up to 5 years, and then stop following it up. Risk factor for malignancy and a polyp less than 5 millimeter. Follow-up ultrasound 1, 3, and 5 years, then stop it. If during follow-up the polyp increases by 2 millimeter, cholecystectomy is advised. This is very important because same sonologist has to follow up. Otherwise, 2 millimeter increase in size, it is difficult to pick up if different people are doing it. If during follow-up polyp reaches 10 millimeter, after if the pair reaches 10 millimeter size of the polyp, no other rules are involved. You can just go ahead and do cholecystectomy. If during follow-up gallbladder polyp disappears, discontinue follow-up. No other follow-up ultrasound is required. So this, I think it is, we can follow up with this, and it is practical in our setup also. Any questions, Ravi?
Sir,
Yeah.
can I come in?
Yes, sir.
Please, Dr. Gupta.
Sir, history of gallbladder malignancy in family history.
Right.
Does it ask us to go ahead with cholecystectomy, irrespective of the size of the polyp?
No study on that, sir. Because gallbladder
Because family-
carcinoma itself is not so common in especially South India.
Family history of GB cancer, sir, I was asking.
No, I think you have to consider individual cases. Any oncosurgeons are in the group? Anybody is there?
Because one of the risk factor they are saying is family history of GB cancer also, means in the management of GB polyps, or we should not consider that.
I think I'll read about it and come back to you.
And as you said, diabetes doesn't have any this one, sir.
No,
they have
no.
ruled out that.
Yeah, not there.
Shivram, can I come in?
Yeah.
I got
Please.
two questions.
Yeah.
You have got a case where you suspect malignancy in a polyp, and you do cholecystectomy.
Right.
It comes as malignancy. What
Right.
next? That is the first question. Second question is, you proceed as if you are doing a CA gallbladder and take the steps towards that. What is the prognosis in a case of polyp which has been diagnosed as malignancy, whereas CA gallbladder per se? Is there any difference in the prognosis?
Yeah, this is going towards the gallbladder cancer. And first question I can answer, if you see that gallbladder polyp and you'd get a histopathology as malignancy, then you have to see what is the stage, whether it is just in the polyp only, whether it has gone into the gallbladder wall, what are the different stages, whether it is mucosa, submucosa, or the muscularis propria, and it has gone invaded into the liver bed, all these things. So this can be get open in this report by the histopathologist. Accordingly, you have to decide. If it is only the mucosa, probably you may not do anything. If it has gone deeper, you have to go and do the local radical cholecystectomy. That means that the liver bed, we have to take it out. Then other question is, you are asking invasive carcinoma.
No, prognosis. Is a prognosis better in these type of cases compared to CA gallbladder diagnosed preoperatively?
No, preoperative diagnosis definitely better, because stage, it all depends on the stages you get. The gallbladder polyp itself going for malignancy is, as per the present study, is rare. So most of them arise as malignancy and gradually becoming bigger and size becomes bigger. So it is a true gallbladder carcinoma than the gallbladder polyp which is there and then going for malignancy. That way the prognosis is not different whether it is through the polyp or then the gallbladder.
No, you are not understood my question. The question is, you have removed a gallbladder polyp, gallbladder polyp, which has come as malignancy, and you have removed a gallbladder for someone like stone. It has come as malignancy. Is there any difference in the prognosis between the two?
No, all depends on the stage.
Okay.
Invasion.
Good evening, Dr. Ashok.
Good evening. Yeah.
See, I think the stage, as Dr. Shivaram has said, stage was classification according to this one. Stage 1A and 1B, laparoscopic cholecystectomy is sufficient. Anything above that, stage 1C and above, you will have to take precautions. If there is any suspicion, you are supposed to, they say that you have to do an open cholecystectomy. I don't know, maybe the cancer surgeons can, correct me, but they say you have to do an open cholecystectomy and do lymph node dissection of the porta along with the even sometimes segment 4 resection, or at least a significant portion of liver to be removed. That is
Radical.
beyond radical cholecystectomy, and that can be done laparoscopically. If at all you are doing laparoscopically, whenever there is suspicion, put an endo bag and take out the gallbladder, and you also have to either use saline or sterile water and irrigate the area to kill off all the cells. So all these precautions are supposed to be taken. But as Dr. Shivaram said, in terms of the gallbladder cancer, I think the prognosis is poor, whether it is detected, detected by through the polyp or through gallstones. I think the prognosis is the same.
Yeah.
If it is onto the wall of the gallbladder onto the liver, then the prognosis is very poor. 6 month survival is about 5 to 10% only.
Thank you.
Hello.
Any questions? Any other questions?
Sir, after
If you are diagnosed it preoperatively, it usually have infiltrated the wall. So the prognosis will be much worse than when you are detected, when you find it incidentally after for removal of the gallbladder polyp.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yes,
Sir,
Ramakrishna.
yeah, I was just looking at that last slide, and he said the chances of malignancy or risk of malignancy. One slide you said gallstone is not associated with higher risk, and I got a little bit confused. Is it if it is associated with gallstone, does it become a risk factor or not?
Yeah, see, there is a problem with this because in Indian population, it has been shown that gallbladder carcinoma is associated with the stones. And so from that, if you extrapolate and some of the polyps or size is more than 10 millimeter and all bigger, so or if they are smaller also, if it is stones associated in Indian ethnic population, they are advising laparoscopic cholecystectomy. That is the UK study which is there. But the other European study, their Indian ethnic origin was not much included. They said the association between the gallbladder polyps and the gallbladder stones, if they are asymptomatic, not much of it. So they don't advocate removal of the gallbladder, asymptomatic gallstones with gallbladder polyps. But that we have to take it with a pinch of salt for the Indian population.
That is irrespective of the gall polyp size, whether
Correct,
it is less
correct.
than 6 to 10, or more
Correct,
than 10.
correct. Because of the stone association. They say stone causes irritation and then malignancy, those things.
So can
anyway,
I take
these
it
things
as
are going to keep changing because there are a lot of studies going on the gallbladder polyps now. Newer and what was true 5 years ago has been proved little different now, like that.
Yeah, and the other question is actually I asked the same thing in the beginning. If ultrasound, they say this different types of pathology you told, no? If they suggest any of those things, does it have any weightage on our decision, or it is just over on the size of the polyp?
No weightage on those things. You can consider according to these criteria what we discussed.
It's not based on the types.
Not
what
on
you
the
have discussed.
pathological type, except the adenoma size, patient characteristics, and the polyp characteristics, what we discussed.
So those are all only pathological interest, not
Pathological.
for our clinical and this one.
Correct. Pathological interest.
Okay, sir.
Mahesh,
Right.
Anything to add? Dr. Mahesh Channappa.
Professor
Nobody
Rosario.
is there. Dr. Nas? Prakash?
Shivram, Ravi.
Dr. Nas, is there any
Can
comments or questions?
Yeah, and
No, no.
Rosario.
I just wanted to say that the ultrasound, like sir mentioned, that it should be done by the same person. And if you can add a harmonic imaging, that would be better. And most of the ultrasound machines have an harmonic imaging now. And the gallbladder polyps can be easily followed by the ultrasound.
Right. There's great advantage of surgeon doing the ultrasound and following it up.
Just yesterday, I had one case. Sir. She has been scanned thrice. I was doing it now. So,
Right.
but it is there. Yes. Thank you.
just to comment, Shivram, on the LFT
Right.
with JP polyps. I
Right.
think the presence of JP polyps, the LFT is mandatory because the GB polyps, if there is an alteration in the liver function test, especially if the canal killer enzymes are up, we need to make sure there are no polyps in the bile duct. So the
Right,
bile duct
right.
needs to be looked at if the LFT is altered, because the management then varies.
It's a good
Think
point.
of,
Yeah, correct. Thank you, Professor Rosario, for joining us.
Any other
that
questions?
was a nice presentation, Shivram.
Yeah, we try to you also take some class sometime.
Sure.
Yes, Ravi Shankar.
Anybody else has any other questions? Dr. Lakshman, final comment from you, sir.
Very good talk, very good summary. This is the kind of data-based information that we need. And I'm sure our postgraduates realize that something that is very common in practice is something that we need to discuss, as we said, with the advent of ultrasound for master health checkups. A lot of patients come with these reports talking about gallbladder polyps, and it is in practice an extremely useful topic to discuss. Thanks, Shivram, for a very good exposition, and I think we got very clear guidelines, and I'm sure all of us have benefited from that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Niranjan, any comments? Niranjan, I don't know whether he's Niranjan. Are you there?
Yes, sir. It was
Any comments?
very good, sir. Nothing, sir.
Okay, Kalaivani, final comments.
Yeah, it was extremely very, very clear, I could say, because there is always doubt on when to operate and when not to operate, and how, because it is so ultrasound and subject dependent. And so the clarity, especially the final summary, gave everything very, very clearly, sir. It's given a very good message. I'm sure the PGs have understood. I mean, whoever, it's for us also.
Message is have a good ultrasound.
Yes, sir. Yeah, very important, sir. Very, very important.
I think surgeons should start doing ultrasound. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yes. That one point was, I think the family history of malignancy does carry an importance on the follow-up of the patients.
Okay,
that I remember in literature it's mentioned.
Right.
Very good, sir. End of the day, it was very good. Very nice.
So to summarize, I think first of all, we have to thank Dr. Shivram for very clear and nice exposition of the topic. I think all the doubts were very clearly, with the help of good evidence base, he has cleared the doubts, and good guidelines have been made for how to follow these patients up and how frequently we should follow them up and when should we offer laparoscopic cholecystectomy. I think the topic of carcinoma gallbladder is a different thing, but so we stick to laparoscopic cholecystectomy as far as polyps are concerned. So I think all the doubts and when surgeons should interfere and how ultrasoundologists will help us in these things. So I think it was a very good talk, and I think we should thank Dr. Shivram for an excellent lecture.
Thank you, Ravi.
Thank Dr. Ravi also, sir, for very nice moderation from him.
Yeah.
And of course, Dr. Shivram, sir, nothing to say. So it's always good.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Good night, sir. Good night.